Ex cheats on me but karma pays in kind with interest. Boy oh boy have I been looking somewhere to post this one. Do keep in mind this was a long time ago, so some of the details are not entirely accurate, but I will give a best as I remember it. When I was in my 20s I was hanging around a group that we now no longer keep in contact with. It tends to happen. People just drift apart. It was in this one of my friends had another friend how thought would be good for me. We shall call her Trish. Trish began to talk and soon found a lot of things in common. I didn't take long but we soon became a couple. I should state Trish and I lived in two different towns and was our trip one way just to get there, so there was a lot of texts and calls. I even spoke to her parents once, more on that later. We even met up when we were in each other's towns to talk and hang out. Well, about a month into the relationship I get a call from her and sounds said quiet, sad and guilty. She confesses that had slept with another guy a day before. This was a shock to me, having never been cheated on before, but I continued to listen. She was sorry as it just happened. Now if this was it, I might have forgiven her and given her a second chance. But it didn't. It soon turned from "I'm sorry I cheated on you" to "well, you made me do it," somehow turning her sleeping with another guy being my fault because I wasn't around. It was a long distance relationship, of course I wasn't around. She somehow was justifying her cheating by this and how this new guy made her happy. I wasn't going to take it, told it was over and hanged up, deleting her number. What happened next I could never plan, but boy, karma is a nasty piece when she wants to be. So Trish and this guy decided to get this place together. And well, that night of passion love, well, it had a result. Yep, she got pregnant. The guy then skipped town, leaving her, pregnant and alone, in a place she could not afford. Due to this she had to move in with her parents, her very, very religious parents. I remember that first time I called them. Right after saying hi they responded with what religion to believe in? As sharp and direct as anything. When I responded with my religion, Lutheran, for anyone was wondering, there was a pause and then "you will do fine." And left like that. So when she came back to them, Trish in a leap of logic tells them about the cheating, pregnancy, the baby daddy. How did they respond learning that their first grandchild was not only to be born out of wedlock but also by sin, the cheating? Like any other religious nutjob does. They were beyond pissed. Through the entire pregnancy they made Trish's life hell. I can't remember what. Now how did I know this? This is where karma was beautiful in her justice. Trish told me. That's right, a year after we broke up, Trish decided to call me, told me everything. Why? My guess is for two reasons. 1. To gain sympathy points, and 2. To get me to take her back. Nope. I quick shut that down and ended the call. Redditor's reaction, story 2 after. Redditor 1, that's so sad. Anyway, good luck with everything. Bye. Redditor 2, you think 1 hour's journey is long distance? Lol. Redditor follow up, I think that's more a condemnation on Trish, like why didn't you just drive an hour if you were horny? An hour where I am is across town and nothing. Redditor 3, there is no revenge. Sorry she cheated on you, but wrong sub. Redditor follow up, all stories must have a form of revenge or karma. Right there on the side of this very screen. Karma counts, this fits. Story 2, cheating girlfriend. Had been dating this girl for almost 7 years. We lived together 6 years of that time. My line of work was electronic consulting, setting up systems with tons of sensors. Good money, but a lot of travel hours. Just setting the stage here. Anyhow, at one point got the feeling that something was off. Nothing I could put my finger on, but a gut feeling. I'm pretty good follow my feelings, so I decided to put some proof in the pudding. While she was out, I had placed a sound-activated recorder in each room of the condo. Very small device as the storage was on my office PC. This was done on a Friday afternoon. Spent the weekend with her and had a good time. Sunday night, before bed, I took my luggage and tools out to my car and also popped a GPS tracker on her car. Left the next morning and headed to my next site. Plan was I was to be away for 2 weeks. I talked with her daily for the first week. The second week was really hit and miss. Times that she was normally home I would call and it would go to voicemail. I would ask her about it when I spoke to her again and I got quite a few excuses. Work meetings, late dinners, helping her brother, etc. 2 weeks end and I come home, head almost immediately to my office. I see a ton of activity on the recorders during the first week and barely anything the second, save a loud vehicle driving by. So I go back to the first week's recordings and find that she is talking to some guy. To make it even better, she has it on speaker so I get to hear both sides of the call. Turns out she has been cheating from pretty much day one of our relationship. So I decided right then and their revenge was in order. I had to find out who this guy was. Through some sleuthing I found out she met this guy, his wife and family, at a campground she worked at before I met her. Found out where they lived and then checked phone records. This being a few years back, people still had house phones, so I looked up the number. Great, it's listed. I called the number and a guy answered the phone. I was prepared for this, so in a professional voice asked to speak to Mrs. Smith. He yelled for her and a woman got on the phone. I asked her if she knew my soon-to-be ex-girlfriend. She said yes, that they had invited her to their house a few times after meeting her at the campground. Wow, that was news to me. I told her we couldn't speak in detail right now, but if she would call me back when she was free to talk I'd explain everything. I gave her my cell number and hoped that she would be curious enough to call. Sure enough, 2 days later she called. I explained everything that I had recorded. At first she was very skeptical. I told her that I would make a copy of the recording and send it to her. She said okay, but still was skeptical. So my work was set in motion. I went to a local recording studio along with the files and explained what I needed. They took all of the separate recordings and put them together so when she wandered through the house it picked up from the different recordings to make the conversation complete. They then burnt these audio recordings to CD. It took 5 CDs to cover it all. I then mailed the CDs to Mrs. Smith, registered mail. Then I waited. About 10 days go by. She finally calls me. She's very calm. She tells me that the day before she went and filed divorce papers. Her husband works on an oil rig and he's out on the rig for the next 2 weeks. After she listened to the CDs I sent her, she gave them to her lawyer. Mr. 30 made a ton of money doing what he does, and so over the years they had bought a lot of toys like campground plots, a boat, RV, etc. She made it clear that she was going for half. I got off the phone laughing to myself. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy after the things I heard on those recordings. During all this time I never said a word to the GF. I acted as normal as possible. In fact, I still left the tracker on her car. I didn't think that would produce anything. Things were quiet for another week. Then came the day when hell was starting to break loose. My GF was wandering around the house like she was lost. I asked her what was wrong and she told me a friend of hers was getting a divorce. I said that's a shame and went about my business. That evening she was out on the deck talking to someone on the phone. I didn't really pay attention except for the fact that every so often she was raising her voice. Phone call ends. She comes back in and goes straight back to the bedroom. I hear a bunch of rustling around, so I walk back to the door and see her packing clothes. I ask her what she's doing and get no reply. She finishes packing and walks out to her car, throws the suitcases in and leaves. 2 weeks go by and not a word from her. I got a call from Mrs. Smith and she updated me on her world. She had her husband served with the papers and infidelity was the reason. He denied, of course, but she was able to throw details that she said stopped him dead in his tracks. She confirmed the phone call that my GF had the night she left was with her. She said she never raised her voice, but my ex-GF tried swearing up and down that nothing ever happened. Mrs. 30 then put out some details to the GF, enough to let her know she was caught. Mrs. 30 implied that she found out on her own and her next step was to tell me. This is why the GF left so quickly lol. So, this leaves my handling of the GF. Credit card, gone. Car, I called to have repped. Utilities, arranged to be shut off. Insurance, cancelled. All of her belongings left behind, were sent by movers to her dad's house along with a note for the reason. BTW, he lives 2 states away. We lived in a condo, so I arranged for it to be shown for sublease. I was packed and moved in 4 days. New condo, gated community with guard shack. The car was finally picked up. They got it while she was at work. Dealership worked with me on selling the car and I just paid the difference. Mrs. Smith did win her divorce decree and got her half. Mr. Smith never counted on anything, too worried about his company finding out the dirty secrets. Never heard from the ex ever again. Redditors' reactions. Redditor 1, I love how you didn't let your emotions get the best of you at any point. It was very satisfying to read. You should post this on our Pro Revenge. Glad things worked out for you, all the very best going forward. Redditor 2, sounds like Mrs. XX had some gut feelings of her own, having filed for divorce so quickly. You saved that woman from her cheating husband. Good work. Op answer, Mrs. 30 wasn't very receptive until she listened to the audio. After that, I could hear in her voice the coldness. She was going to get hers for sure. Redditor 3, can we talk about he ultimately set up devices and spied on someone? Like I understand wanting to catch a cheating partner, but this isn't healthy or the correct way to go about it. Edit, how TF was I downvoted for this? This is not anything close to normal behavior. Redditor follow up, I mean, you're not wrong. But this is a revenge sub. We all know upon arrival that many of the stories will be walking and crossing the line on ethics. Healthy revenge isn't really a thing.